Russian President Vladimir Putin declared martial law in the 4 annexed regions of Ukraine, effective starting today. The declaration, endorsed by Russia's parliament, restricts travel and public gatherings and gives law enforcement agencies more authority. In Russia, regional governors along Ukraine's border were given emergency powers that opened the door for broad restrictions across the country, though Putin did not specify what those restrictions would be.
Ukrainian officials insist that Putin's orders will not stop their continued efforts to take back occupied territory, although they admit it could result in mass deportations of Ukrainians out of those regions and increasingly harsh treatment for anyone who remains there. It's important to remember, war is abstract to us in the U.S. Who are, who do not live in a war zone unless we've been people who've been called, obviously, to serve overseas. But most of us, war is such a foreign concept. But there are people, in Ukraine who are living through invasion of their country, bodies everywhere, people dying, buildings being destroyed, and then restrictions on civil liberties, both in Ukraine and interior to Russia. Because war brings out the worst in the state, even if you're on the defending side, it causes illiberalism. Regimes, restrict basic freedoms, engage in deportations. I mean, the things that our country did during World War II to Japanese Americans, etc.
Right. Well, look, it's also important to note that people in the region have been involved in a civil war since 2014, and people in the eastern part of Ukraine, up until and through this moment, have had mixed feelings about Ukraine as well, with the Russian language being outlawed, with bombing and shelling happening in the region even before this invasion. And so they've really been through it. Now, of course,
Zelensky was the more, won his election kind of as the more dovish candidate initially. Yeah. And now, of course, is, pirouetted into following the invasion
with the backing of the full might of the American military at whatever cost, who wouldn't be turned into a little bit of a hawk? Obviously this report is anticipating the Ukrainian take from the initial read is that Ukrainians in the region are going to be deported to Ukraine, and people in the region are going to be subject to reprisals under Russian conditions, the martial law conditions. Russia obviously opines that they're doing this in a way to protect the Russian-speaking nationals of the region, and round we go. The outstanding question, the same question that existed in February when this conflict started, is what does peace negotiation look like? And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we're any closer to that.
And how soon can we get it going?
Yeah.
Let's have that conversation happen. Yeah. The only way this conflict will end, some kind of peace settlement that no one is totally happy with, but gives Russia something and allows them to back out of this conflict. It's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, former Vice President Mike Pence reacted to claims by House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy that if Republicans take back Congress, the U.S. will no longer be a, quote, blank check for the war in Ukraine. Take a listen.
The House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who wants to become the next Speaker of the House, had said, if Republicans take the gavel, that America will no longer be a blank check for the war in Ukraine. Do you take issue with that?
The United States throughout our history has understood that we need to be the leader of the free world. And that includes being the arsenal of democracy. And in the days of Ronald Reagan, we understood the value of confronting the Russians and communism in the world, not by necessarily fighting them directly, but by making sure the people that were fighting the communists, whether in our hemisphere or other places around the world, had the resources that they need.
So he wants to go back to a 1950s style dominoes theory. We're going to chase down communists and dissidents in every corner of the world and get involved in every intervention there is. I mean, this is really highlighting this contrast between, I think, the bulk of the Republican Party, which is represented by Mike Pence's views here.
But Mike Pence is not popular among the bulk of the Republican Party.
Sure. Well, the bulk of the Republican base. But in terms of Republican elected officials, the overwhelming majority, I think, do align with Mike. Well, when you look at these votes on Ukraine, I will give Republicans credit for having more people who vote against this funding than Democrats, but it is a small sliver of the Republican Party. It was 11 senators and something like 50 odd House members. So this is not a majority, but any
come November 9th, it's going to be more in the House. We'll see in the Senate. Mike Pence does not know how to read the room for the broader conservative movement, or he does and he doesn't care. There could be that. He's like sincerely committed to an outdated version of the Republican Party that he is going to represent until he sees himself as the spokesperson. I think he knows for a side that is losing.
Until the 1-6 folks get their hands on him.
Oh, God.
I mean, look, this is.
But he is not going to be. He's not going to ever be the Republican nominee for president. I will make that prediction. He will not ever have which is quite a fall for him, because prior to Trump losing, and then everything that happened that Trump did and said that was very bad, that put him then, that put Mike Pence in a frankly impossible place. But he will never have the support of enough of the base again, and he's also not speaking to things that are important to them, and the base has is definitely more in line with what McCarthy. And note that McCarthy didn't say we're going to cut off all funding for Ukraine on day one. He did not say we are unsympathetic to Ukraine or that we sympathize with her. He said none of those things. He simply said that there's the as long as it takes blank check policy that is going to come.
Yeah,
a question.
It's not that hard a bar to meet.
How can you? Who can have a problem with that?
Well, Mike Pence can have a problem with that. Look, maybe he should try being a Democrat.
It is more likely that he becomes a Democrat than becomes he is a more likely Democratic nominee for president than 100%. A Republican nominee for president.
I can see it now. Oh, goodness gracious. I can see it now.
The Pence-Cheney ticket then you can do a Tulsi and you can exit. We'll all just
look, I've already exited the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton was enough to chase me out of the Democratic Party. Unlike Tulsi, I think I've been a little bit more vocal about my problems with the duopoly and how corporate purchase of both political parties makes neither a real good home for progressives, independent-minded people who actually want to return power to the people. But I digress.
You can come to the Libertarian Party. We have no corporate backing or power or anything of the.
You guys have corporate backing.
No,
okay.
No, we don't.
We'll get into that.
No. I assure you we don't. I wish it were otherwise.
No Cokes. No Cokes.
No, all right, fine. Well, I don't know how much we should not get into this right now. I don't know to what extent. Certainly in the past, in all fairness, in the past they have supported. Decades ago, a Coke was actually on the Libertarian Party ticket. I don't think they're particularly
more
involved
fodder for our
whatsoever.
Chat over
I am quite hungry, so we should probably wrap. But we will be back next week. Same rising time, same rising place.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, like I do, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts and also on Roku.
Hooray!
All right, see you next week. Take care.